You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
Well, I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show of the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. The phone number here is 608-501-0718. New callers go directly to the front of the line. And we do have a new caller today. So what's going on?
Hey, Ryan. This is Nate from La Crosse. It's my first time calling in.
What's up?
I'm a longtime listener of the show. Really appreciate all your work. But I was reading the Twitters today, and it seems that our fan base has become infatuated with Jared Verse for some reason.
I've noticed that.
So much to the point that naturally our negative fans want to come out and say that he's better than Rashan Gary already. And
I've noticed that with the negative fans is every time something happens, it can't just be, wow, look at that good thing. It's, wow, look at that good thing that we don't have. That's why we suck. Right? It's like, same with like, I was just saying with the Vikings losing. It's like, the Vikings lost. It's like, wow, we must suck. It's like, well, no, I mean, they just lost. It's not, it ain't that deep, bro. Lions lost. Like, yeah, you suck. It's like, oh no, you think they suck. We lost to them twice. God, can you just shut up ever?
Looking at the stat sheet and season totals, Jared Verse had 3 linemen on his team with more sacks than him. 3 of those linemen would have tied or had more sacks than Rashan Gary this year, who obviously led our team in sacks. Doesn't that, I feel like those things don't really add up here. But I want to hear your thoughts, and yeah, appreciate your work. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, let's take a look. I mean, Verse obviously is a monster. And the thing that I had pointed out yesterday is, you know, the idea that, well, yeah, why don't we get it? You know, I get, here's the problem with the negative fans is they look at the elite and they think that that's the standard rather than the exception to the rule. I haven't gone back. Maybe I'll do that for tomorrow's podcast. I don't know. See how far I have to go back. Again, Aiden Hutchinson, who might be the best pass rusher in football right now. He went out with an injury, but before he did, he was the best pass rusher. He didn't have as good of a rookie season as Jared Verse, right? I mean, I don't know how far back I'm going to have to go. Maybe Myles Garrett or something. But it's a unbelievably rare thing that even those guys that get taken in the top 5 that are really good don't automatically do. You certainly are not going to find it outside of the top 10. And then, you know, to expect us to, well, why don't you just go get a Jared Verse this year? What, in the 20s? Or maybe we should just wait until the 4th round? Like, what magical potion do you think we're just going to impart on this thing where it's like they oversimplify everything? Well, why don't you just get the elite guy? I don't understand why you get the guys that are just okay. It's like, oh no, why didn't you just win the game? You should have won. If you won, then we go to the next one, then you win that one, and then you go to the next one, and then you win that one, then you go to the Super Bowl, and then you win that one, and then you win it. So, see, I would make a better coach than everybody else because I know that. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, they had quite a few guys that were doing Michael Hocht. I have no idea how you say that name. Frickin' German sneeze. 30 pressures and 5 sacks on 254 attempts. Byron Young had 54 pressures and 11 sacks on 424 attempts. Braden Fisk, another rookie, so they had 2 frickin' rookies. 59 pressures and 11 sacks on 464 attempts. I mean, the one positive here is you can see how quickly they turn things around. This team has not had pass rush in forever. I mean, they had one guy in the middle that dominated everything. They never had edge rushers, ever. I've been saying that for years. They go out and get Fisk. Obviously, that's not the same as what they used to have on the inside, but you get Fisk, and then you get Verse, and you got some other guys that are getting well above 10% and 10-plus sacks, and suddenly you got one of the scariest pass rushes in football. So it can turn around fast, but it could also take 15 years for it to turn around fast. Kobe Turner, 62 pressures on 578 attempts and an additional 10 sacks. And then Jared Verse, who did lead the team by a ton in pressures, 89 pressures on 546 attempts. He had less sacks with 8, but was by far the most disruptive as a pass rusher. In fact, his pass rush grade was an 85.5. The next highest was rookie Braden Fisk at 68.9. He also had the highest run defense grade of anybody on the defensive line. That's edge and interior. So he definitely had some help, but I think it was more of him helping everybody else than the other way around. I mean, they just hit a home run, man. Sometimes that happens. You know, it's just, that's how it goes. And it's not going to be the Packers every time. You know, it's like, oh, it's everybody. But when was the last time the Rams did this? Do you remember last time they drafted somebody and they're the best in football? Okay, so can they get one? Are they allowed to get one without everybody making it a referendum on the Packers? Because there's 31 other teams. And if we're supposed to keep pace with all 31 others, in other words, we're supposed to be 31 times as good as everybody else, that's kind of silly. Occasionally, other teams are going to hit home runs. I'm so sorry that it can't be only us every time. But this time it was the Rams, and they hit Jared Verse, and he's a freak, and that's just how it goes. And out of 27 guys that were drafted that played a decent amount of snaps on the interior and exterior, 3 of them had pass rush grades 70 or higher. Everybody else was less than that. And every single one of them, I believe, was a first-round pick. Pick 21 was the latest that any player was drafted that was really any, let's say any good might be a stretch, but as far as pass rush goes, that's it. 3 out of 27. Just relax, okay? Just relax.
Hey, Ryan, Nate again. Wanted to add on to my next thing. But, yeah, a lot of people on Twitter saying a lot of bad things about Goot and that maybe we should, if we want productive edge rushers in the NFL, we should go and draft productive edge rushers in college.
You know, I think I know the exact tweet you're talking about because I saved it because I wanted to look into that. My initial instinct is that that's probably true, and I'd like to go that direction, but I'm glad you brought that up because that's what I'm planning on working on to see, you know, because like I said, a lot of times you look at it and you just go, I don't get it. Like Rashan was not very productive in college, and a lot of these guys, you know, Lucas Van Ness was kind of like, it's kind of weird situation with him, and same with like just PFF grades, and you know, you try to be more like, well, you know, obviously you're more nuanced than that, and there's traits and there's all these things, and it's like, okay, all right, I'll buy that, you know, it makes sense, but I don't know. I'd be interested in looking into the situation and just seeing if maybe just getting better players would be a better option. Just a thought. I don't know.
Now, why are we making this comparison by comparing Rashan Gary, who had 7.5 sacks, to Jared Verse, who had a whopping 4.5 sacks? I'm not saying Jared Verse is a bad player by any means. He'd immediately be our second best edge rusher.
Yeah.
But also, you got to take into accountability that Kobe Turner and Braden Fisk, whatever his name is, would each immediately probably be our best D tackle. And Byron Young would also probably immediately be our second best edge rusher. I mean, it's not really comparable, but just negative fans kind of pissing me off.
Yeah.
But yeah, want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, look, I just think he's good. I think Jared Verse is good. He might fall off next year. Who knows what's going to happen? And yeah, he probably has some better help around him or whatever. But I just think he's a good player. Is that because he had was that obvious because he had 1 billion sacks or whatever? No, I don't think so because, one of there's 2 sides of the coin, right? Is it that if you get a guy, it's one thing to say if you get a guy that's not productive in college, you can expect him to not be productive in the NFL. That's a little bit more what I'm curious about. The other thing is to say just because they're productive in college, does that mean they're automatically going to be productive in the NFL? I don't think that that's going to end up happening. And so essentially you still end up in a tough situation where you could draft a guy that has, 20 sacks in college that sucks in the pros. So it's not a fix-all. It's more or less just a thing to say, let's maybe stay away from guys that had 4 sacks in college. And again, that might not even necessarily be the case. But I am somewhat curious about that situation in terms of, if they're less productive, not super highly graded, you'd kind of expect if you can, the baseline is you need to dominate college before I'm going to expect you to be able to dominate in the pros. And if you can't really dominate college, I'm going to be very skeptical of your ability to make the jump. I know it's happened, but it just, it just seems like it'd be easier to just find a guy that just beats the crap out of everybody and hope that they can continue to do it in the pros. I don't know. Just something I plan on looking into for tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see.
What's up? Hey, Aaron from Eau Claire.
What's up?
Just a little thought here. With the whole youth versus veteran experience kind of thing, one thing that stuck out to me thinking about it was maybe the formula, if there is a formula, could be to have at least one like established, very good veteran in each kind of overall general group. So like the receivers, they get a Devontae Adams or something like that, or some kind of older, bigger time, more experienced guy, just so that they have something to kind of aspire to, or somebody to sort of set the tone. Just like, I know Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs aren't that old, but they are the veteran types of leaders that they've proved their worth. I think we did have Preston Smith. That didn't seem to work out too good. So I don't know about that, but I don't know. Maybe we could just use, sprinkle in someone at each kind of major part of the field. At least
It always sounds like you're on a boat, doesn't it? Like it's just the waves kind of lapping up against a tin boat.
for the positions that require a lot of detail and nuance, like receiver. It's got to be the right person, granted, but I think it might be something to consider. I mean, who knows? I could just be overthinking it, but I don't know. I'd just love to have someone like Devontae Adams or someone like DeForest Buckner or Max Crosby step into those roles, maybe get a cornerback that's, like a lot of people, like they'll get someone like, who's that guy from the Patriots that the Vikings have now? Whatever his name is, that used to be an incredible, cornerback, and now he's probably just smart and less athletic. 1 second.
All right, part two. I will say I don't disagree at all. But you got to find the right guy, and I don't exactly know who that would be. I mean, Devontae certainly could be an answer. I don't really know if it is or not. He tended to be more of like, I think he has the right mindset. So I think it would be good from like making sure you have a guy that's going to put in the work and do the right thing. And I think that's great. But that's also sort of the lead by example thing. I don't know if he's a big rah-rah guy. And I don't know. I feel like if you're going to go that route, I think even about like someone like Charles Woodson and the fact that, I mean, he was able to inspire even veteran guys, even guys that were, that would be leaders on this team, were led by someone like Charles Woodson. When he speaks, you listen. Now, he didn't speak very often, but when he did, everybody listened. And I don't know who that would be, but yeah, I certainly wouldn't be opposed to having somebody that has that sort of like gravitational pull, that kind of authority when they speak. I do think that that's probably lacking. I think we have a lot of guys that go about things the right way, right? And I think that's great, and I think they're building in that direction. I don't know that they have the guy with that level of respect that when they speak, everybody responds in a major way.
All right, just finishing up my thought. But yeah, like someone like like Patrick Peterson, I think went on to the Vikings at one point when he was a little bit older. It's not like we're not counting on him to be the savior of the position, but just to have someone that can kind of play either a rotational role or kind of like the second safety or the second cornerback or the third cornerback, something like that. I mean, Jair is that guy for us, but he's always injured. But I think, he does make a big difference. I don't know. Just thinking about that. And I guess for running back, it's not as important because it's really more about their physical ability. And we don't really need old running backs necessarily. But for receiver, which is a lot of nuanced route running and stuff like that, just having somebody who's just proven that they can do it and kind of show what it looks like to put in that kind of work. I don't know. I just wonder if those receivers are just I think they're all talented, but I don't know if they are ready to be that leader for themselves.
Sure.
I could be wrong, but
that makes sense.
Anyways, but yeah, bottom line, whoever they have out there, they just need to be better. They need to coach them better. Maybe it's more just discipline or accountability. Maybe they have been doing all the right things as coaches, and it's just one of those things where, human nature sets in, and maybe the players are doing everything they can. And like, as a musician, sometimes I realize like you can practice at something and just have it go completely wrong when it really matters the most. So, I get it. It's not always necessarily how much work you put in or give effort or whatever. Maybe sometimes it is, but anyways. All right, that's all I got.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. Maybe they just need a little extra something, a little extra, because like I said, right now they're putting in the work. They maybe they don't know where they're going wrong or why it's not producing the way it's supposed to or whatever. A guy like Devontae, and just as an example, and I'm not saying we have to go get Devontae, but a guy like Devontae could help them to kind of put some things into perspective and tell them the things that they need to hear and put in the work and help them with their. We have wide receiver coaches, obviously, that are talented and can tell them what they're supposed to be doing. But, to be able to see it from Devontae's vantage point, and to be able to just kind of maybe one of the biggest things they could do is tie together the Jordan Love wide receiver how that ties together. As far as like helping the receivers know what the quarterback is seeing and helping the quarterback know what the receiver is seeing and just, kind of working that way because he obviously operated at a really high level with Aaron Rodgers. I'm sure they developed all kinds of tips and tricks and everything else. So, throughout the season, there could be little things that would go wrong that perhaps he could kind of help him along with that. Even if it, I don't know. I don't know. I don't really know. But it's certainly possible that could kind of elevate things to the next level, and I think it's probably the natural next thing that needs to happen is to try to get a couple veterans in here, and it like I said, it has less to do with age for me and more to do with mentality, and finding guys that are willing to come in, not only do the things the right way, but are willing to come in and be vocal leaders. Whether they're 24 or 34 doesn't really matter, other than obviously I'd rather have a 24-year-old than a 34-year-old. But I do think that's going to be a priority. Obviously, there's only so much you can do. There's only going to be so many people available that actually fit that billing. Will they become available? And are we going to be able to get them over the other, however many 20-some-odd teams that are going to be competing for that player? It's going to be tough, but, I've been surprised at the amount of people that we've been able to get. So fingers crossed that can kind of work in our favor. All right, let's take our first break. We'll be right back with Uncle Rico.
Yo, Ryan, it's your uncle, Rico.
Yo.
Our problems are over, bro.
All right.
We're good. My daughter just called me, and she told me that she did some research. She probably watched TikTok or something. I don't know. That kind of research. Anyway.
Yeah.
Apparently, Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers both had their worst season maybe, or threw the most interceptions or something like that in their second year of starting. And they both won the Super Bowl in their third year of starting. So we're good. Nothing to worry about.
All right.
We win the Super Bowl next year. It's like written in stone.
Yep.
Just wanted you to know so you can chill, feel good about, the whole year. We got a whole year and more, actually. We got a year and like a couple weeks, and then we win the Super Bowl. It's all good, bro. Let's do it. Go Pack, go.
All right. Well, actually, hate to be that guy. Aaron Rodgers' second year, he only threw 7 interceptions. He threw 13 in his first year. He actually threw 11 the year we won the Super Bowl. And then he threw 12 this past 2022, and then 11 again in 2024 for the Jets. 7 is one of his lower years, was his second year. He actually had the lowest interception percentage in the entire NFL in his second year. So, hate to contradict the old daughter there, but I should say I hate to contradict TikTok. We all know what a great authority TikTok is, but yeah, his rookie year was his worst year. His second year was up there. It was quite good. And then third year was kind of bad again, but we won a Super Bowl, so it's fine. For Brett Favre, it looks like that was true. It wasn't his worst year for interceptions, but he did lead the NFL in interceptions. He had 24. He actually had 29 in 2005. But yeah, year 2, he went to the Pro Bowl still. Different era back then, I think. But then he went, so it was 13 in 1992, then up to 24, and then down to 14, 13, 13, 6. So that was somewhat of an outlier, although went back up to 16 in 97, and went up to 23 in 98. Does kind of ride back up, but yeah, that was kind of mostly a one-year anomaly. And then did not go on to win the Super Bowl year 3. Obviously, it was year, 3, 4, 5. He won the Super Bowl. But he also was Pro Bowl in year 1 and 2. Year 3, he got nothing. And then year 4 was first team All-Pro MVPs, 3-time MVP after that. So hopefully there's a Super Bowl coming somewhere in the near future, and probably a bunch of MVPs and All-Pros and amazing, wonderful things that just will forever be amazing, and we'll just live forever in happiness. So, suck it, world.
Yeah, I just want to revisit our metaphors from the last couple days, or analogies. So,
I don't know.
when you're cooking like a cream sauce and you start burning the dairy in it, and there's that distinct smell.
Okay.
And you're like, oh no, I'm scalding the cream,
Sure.
And we're trying to save it, put a little extra salt in there.
Salt?
Yeah, no.
Is that safe?
we burned the hell out of the fettuccine recipe. And as far as,
What are we referring
Milton's
to?
fable. Man, it was cold out. It's like that Seinfeld episode with the shrink it.
Yeah.
We went to unfurl it, but we're talking about knees, people. Chill. It was cold, all right? Don't judge. I'm sorry. Oh, God. I have to use comedy to cope. Man, I did like the Tucker Craft wrinkle. Oh, maybe bad timing for that descriptor. But the new wrinkle in the offense. God, you guys. To put him under center, I like that a lot, actually. I guess that was like the coup de grace finishing move or whatever. Why hadn't we seen that earlier? I have no idea. It's a cool play. And I hope they use it. I would love to see them do it with a combination of Kraft, Jacobs, and then Love. And then, you could always pitch it back to Love also in that situation. So it's a cool play, man. I don't know why we waited. Like, I guess that was going to be our, like, we gotcha. We've got our own tush-push kind of thing for the Eagles, which, to be fair, I think it went 2 for 2. So, you know, it was a cool wrinkle. It was a cool new twist.
Yeah.
All right.
That's
Bye.
Jeez. I'm moving all the way off of that. Thanks for the call, Kyle. Daniel?
Hey, I know you were saying you didn't want to engage with Bears fans on after the season ended. You're just holding it in. But if you wanted to, you could look at PFF on their linemen and how many sacks they allowed. Caleb sucks because he takes a lot of sacks. They think it's the offensive line. You look at it, their preferred starting 5 only gave up 25 sacks. And then when you add in Larry Borum, because they're a good amount of the season, it ends up being 32. They gave up 68 sacks. Like, a couple of those are running backs, obviously, but
Yeah.
Caleb gave up 30 plus sacks.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Like, what? So, if you wanted to engage with a Bears fan, there's some ammunition for you. Because they were like, oh, the offensive line sucks. No, they only gave up 32 sacks. Yeah, there's a couple other guys that might have gave up 1 or 2. Their preferred 5, and Larry Borum, because I added him in because I think he played 7 games, 32 sacks. Caleb gave up. If you want to be kind, he's like, dude, he took 20 unnecessary sacks.
Yeah.
That sounds like a problem. Jordan only got sacked 14 times, so there you go, Ryan. There's a gift. Have a good day, buddy.
Yeah, and it's not like they don't know. I mean, they pretend that they don't know, but they know. They absolutely know, and they'll say it in the moment, like, stop holding on to the ball, get rid of it, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, a couple weeks will go by or whatever, and they'll just be like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's the offensive line. It's terrible. Like, we need to fix the offensive line. Dude, you know. You've already admitted it. You've already acknowledged it. You know that Caleb is a big part of the problem. And then they'll show a highlight of, like, the one time their left tackle gets beat immediately for a sack. And it's like, oh, yeah, oh, no, it's definitely Caleb's fault for holding on to the ball too long. Like, no, stupid. Not in that one instance. Jeez. Oh, my Lord. But we'll see, man. Maybe Ben Johnson will fix everything. He's got a lot of work. He's got a lot of work to do because, I mean, Caleb is a big cog in the machine there. You know what I mean? He's that's not the, what am I trying to think of? He's a fly in the ointment. What the heck? I don't know. He's the bottleneck. That's what it is. He's the bottleneck. You can't unfurl your whole offense if this guy can't do anything. All right, stand in the pocket. No, I can't. No, I need you to stay there. Somebody's coming. No, he's not. Yeah, I got to run. I got to go. Trust me, I'll make this throw behind my back. Like, no, I don't want you to do that, though. I don't want you to stand still and then, he sacked. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I guess we're back to throwing screens to DJ Moore. I don't know what else to do because that's all that works with this frickin' team.
Hey, howdy, this is Jared, the Uber driver from Texas.
So,
you know what's been pissing me off since we lost the game is that like almost nobody I see is acknowledging how bad the reffing was. Like, I know I don't want to continue on that trail, but like literally that first fumble that was recovered by us, there was a penalty on it from a former Packers teammate. I'll get you a sack. Sorry, that's my impatient 19-month-old. And then the other thing is, there's the celebration Amon-Ra St. Brown did against the Packers. There's been a cake made of it. There's been an ice sculpture made of it. And there's been a drone show made out of it in Michigan. Like, you guys, that was one game, and all you care about is a celebration that you did against the Packers. I'm sorry, but that seems a little much, don't you think? Like they're idolizing us almost because all they can think about is that one celebration against the Packers. I don't know. Have a good day, y'all. Go Pack.
Yeah, I mean, look, we took a beating. There's no doubt about it. I mean, we got whooped by the NFC North. The Bears even beat us once, which is insult to injury. We got bounced immediately in the playoffs, so we couldn't even talk about getting further than anybody else or winning more than anybody else. We got swept by the Lions. We got swept by the Vikings. I mean, it was an absolute beating. Overall, there's a lot of good things in the season, but in the division, I mean, it's rough. And there's multiple goals we got to work on. You know, we got to get back to the playoffs. That's the most important thing. And, you know, where you are in the division doesn't necessarily matter unless you can get that number 1 seed, which would be ideal. Or actually even just winning the division obviously is important. But, you know, second and third or whatever isn't that big of a deal. But still, I do think we gotta start figuring this out in the division here. I mean, the Lions have had a good team, but they've kind of had our number for a while, even when they weren't the better team. And that's got to stop. So we got to start being able to beat those teams. You know, on one hand, it's just kind of like a minor thing, but on the other hand, it's like that's 6 of your games in a season. That's pretty massive, being able to win your division. So, you know, if you're not focused on it, and you end up going 1 of 6. That's going to end up hurting your season. Most seasons, that's really going to hurt your season. Not this year, where we beat pretty much everybody else. But I would like to start winning over on. I mean, Minnesota we usually do okay with. We split with anyways. Detroit's becoming a problem. We've won once in the last I don't know however long, and now we slipped one to the Bears after all these years. We gotta regain that a little bit, regain our foothold. I mean, that's I think that needs to be a big goal this year, is win the division. It's weird. It feels weird to talk about how important that is, because that's just kind of an afterthought for us most years. But I do think that needs to be a big thing for us in 2025. All right, let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Hey, Ryan, it's Kyle.
Hey.
I'm anxious to dig into your pod here. Looks like you're going to go over the LaFleur press conference. I did just see the snippet about not being able to overcome the fumble at the beginning. And I'll be interested to see, is he telling me after the fact they couldn't? Or is he saying, how do I want to say this? Like, or was that the sense the whole team had? You know, because if he's feeling that way with 4 quarters to go, that's a big problem. You know, I know as fans, we're all like, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah.
And probably a little bit on the bench, too. But, like, man, if you're so mentally soft, you can't overcome that. And your coach agrees. Like, oh, that's an issue.
Right.
Now, after the fact, yeah, it looked like that was a pretty big freaking moment in the game. But to say we couldn't overcome it in literally all but 3 seconds of the game to play is a little silly, too. But, yeah, no doubt, huge swing. So I'm sure you got a rant on that. I'm not trying to yuck anybody's yum, because I thought, like, obviously Jacobs played amazing. He's probably the best guy out there. But, look, man, he put the ball on the ground twice. Now, once his arm was down, so, you know, it's not a fumble, but, like, he's got that chicken wing out there right before his arm's down.
Yeah.
And then the other, he does put on the dirt, and we jump on it. So I'm not trying to bag on the guy. Like, yes, warrior, leader, appreciate it. If we don't jump on that ball, his highlight play never happens, and one of our only good drives doesn't happen. So,
well, he killed us against Chicago, too, with that. And, you know, RLS mentioned it before, too. He called that out beforehand. Like, he's constantly just flailing his arm around. Eventually, that's going to be a fumble, and what happens? He gets a fumble. I think it was against Chicago, and we get, you know, another against, you know, in the playoffs and everything. It's just, I mean, come on, man. Come on. You're one of the better running backs in football. This is basic peewee football stuff, man. Just protect the football, please.
All I'm saying is, like, nobody's absolved. Nobody played a perfect game. I don't care what his PFF grade is. Obviously, he was great. But if that ball is recovered by the Eagles, he's on everybody's S list, just like everybody else this week, regardless how well he played. So, like, everybody's got to play better. You cannot put the ball on the ground in the playoffs. And that includes Josh Jacobs, because he did it. So, you know, I'm not bagging on him. I'm just saying, you know, we see this through results instead of, like, reality a little bit, right? But just like we're not going to count 4 picks for Love, we're not going to count a fumble for Jacobs. But, like, dude, everybody, like, here's your one mulligan. Because I do think, like, I do think they're going to get this figured out. But we can't do any of this stuff next year should we be healthy and lucky enough to get in this position to compete again. we get in the playoffs, we can't put it on frickin' ground. We can't throw 3 picks. So whether they recovered it or not, we all need to learn these lessons as if they did and move forward, because it just can't happen. You know what I mean? It can't happen going forward.
Yeah.
You cannot fumble the ball in the playoffs. You cannot throw a pick in the playoffs. So I hope everybody across the roster is learning their lessons so we can go forward and not do these things, you know? Everybody, top to bottom.
Yeah, I mean, this was a rough year for mistakes in general. I mean, to start the season was absolutely brutal. I mean, the first half of the season between penalties and picks and turnovers in general, I mean, we kind of balanced it out by getting a bunch back with our defense. But, I mean, it was brutal. Second half got better, but it was still a problem. We still had drops. Still had stupid penalties. Still had errant decisions by the quarterback. Still had, I mean, the coaching staff even. You know, I mean, all this stuff with Matt LaFleur, like I've been saying, pretending this has been happening forever, like Matt LaFleur has always been doing this, is stupid. It hasn't been, but also that, right? Like now the challenge thing is like a new weird thing that suddenly you can't do. And time management, I've never had an issue with Matt LaFleur and time management like this ever before. And like that stupid play call at the end of the Bears game, that's never happened before. And now that's happening. So I don't, just across the board, like, is everybody just stupid now? Or what's happening right now? I'm just confused. But yeah, this is what we gotta work on a little bit. It just seemed like things were kind of falling apart. And, you know, it's like one of those things where you start slipping on ice and you just start looking stupid as you try to recover, and then you slip the other direction, you try to recover and just compensate, overcompensate, and this guy gets hurt, and then we panic, and then you drop, and then we panic, and Jordan was panicked, and everybody was panicked, and you could feel it. They just didn't seem confident, and they never just seemed to get their footing for whatever reason, and they got to work on that. The comfort level for Matt LaFleur, the comfort level for Jordan, the comfort level for the receivers, it just never seemed to be there. You know, I think the defense was making strides, and I think the offensive line and the run game were hanging in there. I mean, yes, the fumbles and everything, but you know, everything was kind of starting to solidify. But you know, just the passing game from you know, the receivers to the quarterback to the coach, it just never could quite slip into gear.
Hi, Ryan. It's Randy from Minnesota.
Hey.
Well, I'm already past it. I'm past the game. I'm looking forward to the future. Thank God the Vikings lost. That helps me out a lot. I know I'm being a little just worrying about me there, but thank God they lost. After reading and listening to what Kraft, X, and Josh Jacobs said, are saying about how things are going to change, what needs to happen, I'm really confident that the changes are coming from within that locker room. They're not.
I agree that I like that it feels like somebody knows what's going to happen, and I think the coaching staff and the GM and everybody does too. They didn't lead on to it. You know, Matt LaFleur has a great gift of always pissing me off at press conferences by making sure to convey to me that it's nobody's fault and he has no idea what the problem is. It's like I just want to strangle the guy. But yeah, you listen to the guys in the locker room, and they make it very clear. They know who the problems are. They know what the problems are. They know that there are some guys that need to be gone, that they're a problem, and they know what type of people we need, and we're going to get those people in here. And they speak with assurance, which is also makes me confident, because it means that, you know, obviously these players don't have the authority, which means they talk to Matt LaFleur and to Gutekunst, maybe not personally, but it has been communicated to these guys that, yes, we're with you, we understand the problem, and we're going to be moving in that direction, which also goes to the whole Jair thing, with him saying, I don't even know if I'm going to be here next year, and I got nothing good to say. I think he's well aware that they're well aware of the plan. And like everybody kind of understands what's going to happen. And I think Jair understands it too, that he's probably on the outs. And it does give me a lot of confidence that they know what they need. They know what they are. They know what direction they need to be heading in. And they're going to continue to pursue that. And I like that. Again, I like Jair a lot, but I like the plan more. And I'm all in.
Going to allow they're not going to allow mediocrity.
Right.
They want to win. They want to win now, and they want people who with them who want to win, and they're bringing it up themselves. It's not the coaches. It's not anybody in management. It's the players. And you get a group of 3, 4, 5 players who are willing to basically tell the rest of the team, no, you're not doing good enough. It's going to go a long way. We got the draft coming up, and I fully expect to have another successful draft like we almost always do with Goots. Free agency, we got money to spend. I'm sure we will spend it wisely. And I'm still a Jordan Love believer. I know he can do it. He can do the job. He's shown it. I don't know what happened this year, but I do believe that he has the ability and the people around him to support him to make him a great quarterback. So, this year's done. Let's look forward to next year. It's a long off season, too darn long, but it is what it is, and I got nothing but feeling good about the Packers in the future. Anyway, thanks for the show, Ryan. Go Pack, go. Bye.
Yeah, and I haven't even really gotten back to that. I don't know if I'm going to. I'd referenced it 1,000 times as the reason why it doesn't feel worthwhile going back to. But yeah, the comments from Tucker Kraft that echo the comments from Josh Jacobs. Essentially, some of these guys are not going to be here next year, kind of thing. I mean, I love that there's a lot of guys that even as young guys, they go about things the right way. They set a standard. It's hard, especially being a younger, newer person to come in and say, you will meet my standard or you won't be here, to have that kind of authority. But again, the thing I like about it is they clearly have the backing. And I think that's important. Matt LaFleur and these guys, they want a player-led locker room. But, somebody's got to have their back. Otherwise, this thing's just not really going to work out. So, you need to have the ability to give them the authority to have a voice. And that's good. I want them to feel empowered to do the right thing always. And on the opposite side, I want guys to know that if you're not going to play ball, that you're not going to be here, and it doesn't matter who you are. I think that's important to building in the right direction. And as much as we might, or people might not like Matt LaFleur and think he can't do this, that, or the other, I think he's going about things the right way. How the guys respond to him, I have no idea, but I like, and give a lot of credit to Gutekunst as well. There's a common vision. It's funny because it's kind of like, Dmitry Medvedev was in charge of Russia, except he very obviously was not in charge of Russia. Putin was not the president, but Putin was absolutely in charge. He was the president of Russia. The GM and the coach are going to let the locker room lead itself, but it's basically being puppeteered by the coach and the GM. Like you can have whatever attitude you want so long as it's the one that we want. But they're going to build and cultivate in that direction.
Hey, I just wanted to say to people maybe on the fence about tuning in to the podcast here after, I know the off season, some people check out, and I understand from like a preservation standpoint, maybe need a little break. But I would just encourage those of you that might still be listening, that don't usually listen in the off season, to hang around, because it's actually my favorite. I don't know, favorite, but I really like the programming here that Ryan does in the off season. If you haven't listened, I mean, certainly there's draft stuff, but it's not just draft stuff. I know he's excited about digging into the draft, but it isn't an exclusively draft thing, because I can only take so much draft stuff, and I really appreciate it. It kind of becomes an NFL variety show, and then sometimes we go off the rails and non-NFL related tangents in the off season, but it's really fun, man. Like, one of my favorite things is mowing the lawn, listening to Packernet in summer. You got all the possibilities in front of you. And let's be honest, man, this year, we should be excited. I understand we got question marks, especially quarterback, right? But it's not like the proof of concept isn't there. It's not like some pie in the sky dream, like when we, in the days where we would be like, well, maybe Joe Barry and his defense end up championship caliber this year. Like, no, we don't have to do that this year. we know the offense has the ability to be extremely effective. Will it get there? Don't know. But it's not naivete, in my opinion, to imagine worlds where it does. Same thing with the defense this year, you know? We've got money. It's not like we got $6 million in cap room and we're just hoping we can bring in like a fourth-tier player. Like we saw them last year with money. They brought them in. They got more money this year, and God knows they need it. I think there'll be some action. So I, for one, although I don't want to be here, I am excited about the offseason. This should be one for the books, honestly. And, you know, there is still a lot of hope for this team. You know, you look at a team like the Vikings, less hope, in my opinion. So I'm pumped. You know, I'm not pumped about how it went at the end, obviously. But I just think it's kind of disingenuous if somebody sits there and is just totally defeatist about the state of this team. Like, yeah, there were some things that happened there, not great. But I think, you know, we've got a little sample size now, and if they can, I believe they can get this quarterback playing at least at a level where they can win. And I don't think that that's just completely like wish casting either. We've seen this team play on levels way higher than what we're playing to finish the season. So I think it's going to be a fun off season for Optimism. I really think so. And I don't think it's just blind optimism either. It's not just rose-colored glasses. There's a lot of things here that...
3 minutes got him. I appreciate that, Kyle. I've actually heard several people say that the off-season content is the best content. And it's not that hard to figure out why. I mean, in the regular season, you're kind of restricted to what you can do. I mean, you've got your PFF Monday, and then, you know, on Wednesday is when the injury reports start coming out, and, you know, on Saturday we got to start looking at the team, and Sunday we look at the team, and, you know, everything's kind of regimented, and you kind of just do the same thing over and over again. Not that has to be a bad thing, but it gets to be just that. In the off season, you have to come up with content, and if you don't, then, you know, bottom line is you have to get a little creative once in a while. And that's when you start doing the deep dives. That's when you start finding all kinds of crazy stuff. And it gets to be a little bit more fun. So, yeah, I appreciate that. And hopefully you guys will stick around. But for today, I think we're done. You guys have a good rest of your night. I will talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.